Right.
You just broke up.
You see it saying recorded?
Yep, James is recording the call.
All right. Let me add him in.
You can add him on video or just call?
Just call.
Okay.
I don't expect him to want a video.
Yep. I'm gonna have to during it. I'm gonna cut out. I'm gonna try to keep the audio going. I'm gonna shut this down because I want to read a thing to him. A friend of mine from the con was at one of his speeches when she was in school.
Do that on the air.
I'm gonna I gotta read it, so I gotta close out of this,
Oh, I got you.
Can you still hear?
Him in. Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be fine. Then I can do it on the air.
Yeah.
All right, I just wasn't sure if it would
Hey guys.
Hey Mark, how are you? Thank you for doing this, man.
Can you see me or no?
I don't, but that's if you don't turn your. We have our video on because we throw little hand signals to each other and.
Okay, but it's just voice, anyways, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool, man. Cool, good to see you guys, man.
Yeah, you too, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Yep, perfect. Okay. Right, sound a lot better than we do.
No.
So we're going for about a half hour?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, man.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the Irish Whip, we go by TIW for short, which often stands for sometimes Technical Issues Weekly. So, we're not the most super professional, but we are diehard fans. Yeah. And we're, like I said, I showed you the numbers that we have, and we're starting to get bigger and better. And we've actually got people coming for us now.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll post it on my when you get the link to it. I'll post it for you guys.
As soon as we get it edited, we'll send it right to you.
Yeah, I'll probably put it up like Wednesday-ish, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Cool, guys. Cool.
What do you want
to? Real quick before we get going, and we'll follow your lead and whatever you want to push out there. And we just want to go touch it a little bit back on your WCW days, how you came up playing sports, all that stuff. Is there anything that we should stay away from?
No, I don't care. Nothing. No off limits.
All right. We'll try to focus. Go back to champions of choice as much as we can too.
Okay. Cool.
And like I said, I'm going to read you the thing I told about earlier from the friend of mine that you came to her school.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
She's at the Pope High School in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Whenever you're ready to go live, JP, you can bring us in.
All right. What's up, TIW Mafia? JP here with Big Joe, and we got Johnny B. Bad, Marvelous Marc Mero. He's been in every major company, I think, out there in pro wrestling. How's it going tonight, Mark?
Hey, guys. Good to see you. Or hear you.
You're lucky you don't have to see us. If people had to see us, we'd have no listeners.
Yeah, seeing us isn't a good thing.
No, Mark, how are things going? Like you've been out of wrestling for quite a bit.
It's funny when we used to wrestle with WCW, WWE, we used to do upwards in 200, 250 cities a year, crazy travel, And I remember when I retired from wrestling, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, thank goodness I don't have to do this anymore. And then what do? I get speaking, and now I'm doing 250 cities again.
That's champion of choices. You're all over social media with that stuff, and it's just such a positive thing. And the anti-bullying campaigns are so strong right now, and bullying is just going away, hopefully.
Well, I don't think it's ever going to go away, guys. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot more than that now. It's, with the suicide and the anxiety and the depression that students are experiencing today that, we're seeing the numbers just escalate every year. I mean, visits to the ER for suicide attempts doubled in 1 year. Went from 500,000 last year to over 1 million this year. So it's a real sad situation that we're dealing with. And we've got to look at the mental health wellness of these young people today.
Yes, that's something. The mental health stuff is something we've touched on a lot over the past with, like you said, the suicides and that type of thing. And it goes hand in hand. Guys, let's be nice to each other.
Like myself, I deal with depression and PTSD myself. And I try to advocate for that as much as I can. And I feel myself by me telling my stories and me being out with mine and being open and not hiding it, that I've already know I've helped a few people come to grips with their own and be able to be like, yeah, you know what? Oh, Joe, if you can do it, I can do it.
Man, that's beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that, because I think that one of the problems we have is so many people feel like, that they're the only one going through it, or they're alone, or they don't matter. And they hear someone else talk about it, they go, "Oh my gosh, I can share my story," because when you share your story, you actually help somebody else to feel like they're not alone, and know they matter, and know that it's okay to talk about it. Give you props there, man.
You build that commonality.
Yes.
And it's sad today, in today's day and age, that more people will be open about being a drug addict, where back in the day that was the hidden fact. Then you have people saying that they need someone to talk to.
There's such a stigma on mental health today, and then we got to be open about it. We all go through stuff, man. I go through stuff, it's like I think that's why the kids really can relate to me, is because when I'm on stage, I really share and be completely open and vulnerable up there. And they see that, and that's why I get so many letters, and we're able to help so many of these kids today.
If I can take a minute real quick, I have something to read to you, Mark. It's a friend of mine. She 6 years ago, you went to her high school. And when I posted this morning on Instagram the flash page of you coming on the show, she messaged me telling me that you came to her high school and you did one of those programs, and that it really stuck with her. She doesn't remember a lot, but I'm going to read to you what she said to me. If you want to hold on one sec, here we go.
Sure.
She says, that day in school, remember that day we had a mandatory program. I wasn't looking forward to it at all. But when I got there, it was obvious it wasn't like the other mandatory programs my school made us go to. This is actually interesting. And the lights were off. He told his story of how he had struggled with partying and drinking, something a lot of people struggle with, especially those with large amounts of money. We were just too young to know. He said he struggled a lot with the alcohol and partying. Personally, I'd like to hear the version that wasn't altered for high schoolers, or if there is one. I can't remember exactly his full story, and I don't want to get it wrong, but I think he had a near-death experience, or his mom thought he was going through it. And when she said she was hearing about your mom being heartbroken, that really hurt her. And she said you made them reflect a lot on themselves and think about their own moms and their own choices and how that affected other people as well, and to think about the decisions they were going to face. I think he had everyone in the audience a little teary-eyed, definitely all the teachers. He had me feeling grateful and hopeful, even inside a school where I almost always had no hope. I sat alone in the audience since I had been there just less than a year. I still hadn't made any friends, but before we were excused, he let us know of ways we could contact him on social media and to never feel alone. When she sent me that, like, I teared up thinking that this friend of mine that I met through doing the different comic conventions remembered you from 6 years ago by a simple picture I put up.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. I always find that by touching someone's heart is how you can change their mind, and it's just beautiful. Those are the letters I get every day, and it's nice to hear one from 6 years ago too. This is I'm going into my 13th year presenting at schools, and obviously when you speak at a school, you have to be politically correct and careful on how you word you use and things like that. And I get it, but there is a version that's a little bit stronger than that. And I do share that sometimes when I'm in, some of the more extensive meetings that I go to with drug addiction and things like that.
Well, there's the tough love, and sometimes you need to hear the tough love. And it's one of those, like when I was going through some issues of my own, I was brought in with the kindness and then hit with the reality. And that's what it shocked me. It's like you can't come in, for me anyway, what worked for me is you can't come in and powder puff it the whole way. You have to hit that dose of reality that's going to shock you.
Amen. Amen.
Mark, I got to get a little lighthearted here, if you don't mind, just for 1 second. Something that's been bugging me.
There, okay?
Something that's been I've wanted to know about you since the WCW days. What came first? Johnny B. Bad, or you having that look?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That was Dusty Rhodes all the way. When I first came, I drove up to Atlanta from Florida just to be an enhancement guy and hope to make it someday. You know, one of those young kids that just dreamed of making it. You know, and Dusty Rhodes saw me, and he thought that I looked like Little Richard. And that's where he came up with that idea. And then he said, I want you to talk like this and act like this and do this. And so he worked with me on it. And it was some of the most fun times I've ever had in wrestling was watching Dusty do me, you know?
No. Oh, Jesus. I can only imagine what that would have sounded like back then.
It was so funny.
No, did you have any, like, pushback on that? Because that was back then, that was kind of not something that was being done.
Well, you remember something. When you're making $13,000 a year digging swimming pools and someone offers you six figures, you're going to say, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
It wasn't like I really had a say in it, but you know, after the character kind of got over, I did ask him after I believe it was the second year, going into the third year maybe, that I asked him if I could drop like the makeup and some of the feminine qualities that I didn't think it was. I didn't think it needed. I said, let's make it more like a Muhammad Ali character, like a fun, you know, flamboyant character, you know. And then he agreed, and we were able to drop the makeup and make it a little bit more fun.
Is that when the Bad Blaster came into effect?
No, the Bad Blaster started right from the beginning, actually. You know, it just the Bad Blaster just kept getting bigger and bigger. It started out as a small little handheld cannon, and it was like two hands, and it was and then we started doing crazy things like loading it up with money, so people went crazy when I shot it. You know.
Do you still have it?
I do, believe it or not. Yes.
That you should bring that to your seminars now.
Oh, yeah, that's what I want to carry around, the giant cannon. What are you carrying, man?
Just a giant cannon? What? I can check this through TSA, right?
Well, you go into the high schools, have it shoot out hall passes.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, how many high schools not just high schools, I know you do everything, but how many, like, speaking engagements do you do in a year now?
In the last 5 years, we've averaged right at 231.
Wow. So you're straight on with your wrestling.
Yeah, it's the same crazy travel. The good thing is that I usually take summers off, so it's really 231 in 10 months. But you know, I take you know, pretty much July and August off, and then I get back to it pretty heavily towards the end of August.
Now, do you do, Joe, like Joe just mentioned, he's in with the comic conventions. Do you do wrestling conventions and signings and stuff like that?
I've only done a couple of them, and it's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that they just never really fit into my schedule when I was called to do them. And but I believe I got one coming up. I think it's in, gosh, I don't even know, guys. I think it's October somewhere in. Oh, I don't want to say. I wrote it down, but yeah, we are scheduled to do one.
That's so people get a chance to still meet you outside of the talks.
Man, I love meeting people. You know, the greatest commandments are love God and love people. Man, I tell you, I really do, and it's so much fun to do what I do now because it's so different. You know, I mean, gosh, in wrestling, you know, the good thing is you go out there and entertain people, but now I get to go out and entertain, and nobody's hitting me over the head with a chair anymore. So it's much better.
Yeah, well, it's probably more rewarding now too. Like, you entertain the fans and you helped fans. Like, wrestling got me through a lot of stuff as a kid.
Big time.
So you probably didn't realize how much you were helping people then, where now it's very in your face as to how much you're helping people. Like you said, the letters and stuff you get. So it's probably more rewarding now.
There's no greater joy than helping another person. You know, I always tell people, you want to be happy, help someone else become happy.
That's a good way of doing it. See, Joe, help me be happy, and you'll be happy too.
Well, I helped you growing up. I used to not be up.
Joe was my bully growing up as a kid, and now we're best friends. So,
but I was not so much like not a bully. I would just kind of like grab him, kind of like in a hockey fight when the goalies would fight. We kind of just hold each other. Never really fought.
Yeah, it was always it was like a older brother type of thing, even though we're the same age.
Now, Mark, with the going back to your traveling for your wrestling and going now to traveling with giving your seminars and your talks, I'm just going to jump on and say I'm sure that giving the talks is more rewarding, like personally for you. But like, is there something you miss about the road, the guys, the stories, the times?
I mean, I just flew into Atlanta and I stayed with Diamond Dallas Page, and me and him went and did the Buff Bagwell podcast. And this, just sitting around reminiscing about old stories. Us three traveled together a lot with WCW, and we had some of the funniest stories that we all shared together. And yeah, sure, you miss that camaraderie and the guys and stuff. The good thing is I travel with a really cool guy that it's just a lot of fun. He's really a funny guy, and he's always up for stuff. So he's always doing videos, and he's kind of funny. And so we have a lot of fun on the road still.
That's awesome.
We just don't get in trouble like we used to. Okay.
Well, being on the road and stuff, and you can tell me to shut my mouth here, but you were pretty outspoken at one point about the drugs in wrestling.
Well, that was towards the end of my career when we started losing so many guys. It's like it just someone needed to say something. Someone needed to stand up. But you know what? I look back on that now and I think what a blessing it was, because now even guys that had wrestled for WWE or WCW years ago, they're getting free drug counseling now or rehab. I mean, we never would have gotten that if someone didn't stand up and fight for these things. So. Right. Maybe a lot of people maybe lost a lot of fans or people didn't like me, but all I look at is, man, maybe it saved some lives. Maybe there were some changes. And then the drug testing got so strict now. We don't see a lot of wrestlers dying like they did back in our day,
Right. And the steroids aren't as prevalent as they were back then. The guys aren't 400 pounds anymore and bench pressing 600 pounds. The guys that are in the ring now, it's a more natural look. And it's still it's still entertaining.
Sure. That had a lot to do with some of us that stood up and took the bullet for a lot of the guys, and just said, hey, let's make some changes, and they did, and which is great. I commend them for it. I got no animosity or bitterness. That's the good thing about life, man. You can't go through life with bitterness. I have no regrets. I have no, I don't look at it as the enemies or anything like that.
That's like you hear so much the bitter old veteran and stuff like that. So it's awesome that you're able to go out there and just be you and be happy, and you're still in front of crowds every day and just helping so many people.
You're still wrestling. It's just with a different opponent.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
I mean, whether you're wrestling with depression or you're wrestling with addiction or you're wrestling with bullying, it's a battle.
Yeah, it's a battle, and I'm in the battle for the lives of our children right now, man. I really am, and it's so sad when you meet a parent that loses a kid to drug overdose or suicide. It's just heartbreaking.
Me and Joe grew up in a town. We grew up in South Boston, Massachusetts, and the epidemic there is just the past 20 years has been insane. Like the amount of people that we've lost to that. So,
or even back before that, JP, when we were teenagers, there was a lot of kids committing suicide.
Yeah,
because they couldn't beat the drugs.
Right. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, depression, suicide, and drugs—they go hand in hand a lot of times, guys.
Yes, they absolutely do. Now, when you get, I got to keep it lighthearted. I know it's because we hit serious topics, and it's just, it gets me. Now, do you have a favorite match of all time? Like, what match sticks out?
I got asked that a lot, and I actually got a couple of them that I hate to say that with just one, but there's a couple of them that really stand out. One was Flying Brian. We had, I think it was War Games we had a really good match. It was like a 30-minute match, and we opened the show, and it turned out to be just a really good match.
I always like that. Have you caught any?
Friends with his son now. His son came out to one of my presentations a couple of years ago before he ever got into wrestling, and oh my gosh, what a good kid he is! So he's really good kid.
Ryan, we've had him on.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's a really good kid, yeah. Just what he's doing now is incredible.
Yeah, he's gotten so good, man. He's like his dad. He's a natural, man. And then I guess another one I really enjoyed was I wrestled Stone Cold quite a bit. Stunning Steve in WCW and then Stone Cold WWE. I guess the King of the Ring match we had was pretty good. That's another one that stands out. And then a lot of them with Diamond Dallas Page. I always liked wrestling Dallas because that guy, he just was amazing to work with. He was so intense. He didn't feel nothing. And I was sometimes throwing potatoes every once in a while, but he never complained. And I don't know, he's just a lot of fun to wrestle because he was such a good friend of mine. So it was like, let's do this, let's do that. And he's like, yeah, let's do this and just do that. We'd come back and forth with each other and try all new things and new moves. And we'd go down to the power plant and work out together. So that's why I have a lot of matches with him that really stand out too.
Now, you guys, how much say in your matches and your storylines did you have in WCW?
Well, even the same with WWE's when they give you pretty much let's say they're going to go, if it's television, let's say they go, you have 8 minutes and you're going to win with whatever move you did, Yeah. So then it's between you and the guy you're working with to kind of figure out what can you do in those 8 or 10 minutes or whatever the time limit they give you, So and if you're being put over, you want to get his stuff in, quite a bit.
So you're doing live theater. You're basically writing a play every night of the week and just being told the beginning and the end.
Yeah, you just know that you know the finish and how much time you have, and then you work it out with whoever you're working with to put the story together.
Now, on that same match of your favorites, who would you wish you got the chance to work with back in the day that you didn't, and who would you like to work with in any of the current rosters now?
Okay, one other match I forgot to mention was Eddie Guerrero was probably one of the greatest wrestlers ever.
In-ring genius.
He was so smooth. He knew everybody's moves. He was just incredible, man. I forgot that was another one that was really good. But if I could wrestle somebody now, or someone I didn't get to wrestle, man, Shawn Michaels and I could probably had a good match. Seth Rollins, I think, could have a really good match with him too. He's a really talented guy.
Yeah, I see you and Seth have very similar style.
Yeah. Let me think. Another guy I enjoyed wrestling, which was like a night off, was Ric Flair. Oh my gosh. When you were wrestling Ric Flair, it was like, oh my gosh, night off, except for the chops.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say, even with those chops.
Now, wrestling a Ric Flair, in the locker room, does that kind of mean you made it?
You know what? It was weird because when I first signed up, when I first made it into WCW, I was so new. I only wrestled a few matches. I was so green. And here I am wrestling Sting and Cactus Jack and all these stars that I really didn't even know what the heck I was doing. I was so green out there, But it was funny because when you wrestle Ric Flair, he don't go over nothing. He just says, just listen to me out there, brother, and you get out in the ring and you have no idea. He basically just flips himself around and knocks himself down and you just got to follow through with it, He's just so talented. He's been around so long that it was easy. It was fun to work with him.
You just described his style perfect. There wasn't just a bump with Flair. It was always a flip. And
what was so funny wrestling Ric Flair? I remember wrestling him in Germany. It was we were doing the European Cup out there. And I went to, I don't know if it was a quarter or semifinals against him, or I can't remember now. But anyways, when I was a kid watching him, I always remembered him put it out his hands. And when you go to grab him, he does that woo, he does his walk,
Yeah.
And when we got in the ring, remember, I never talked to him before the match. I had no idea what we were doing. All I knew was the finish. And he puts his hands out, so I went to grab him, and he does that, and it was like deja vu to when I was a kid. It was so weird. It was like so surreal. I'm in the ring with Ric Flair. It was crazy. And then, the bumps he does, you throw him in the corner, he flips over the rope, he clothesline. It's like I knew all his moves, and it was just so much fun.
Now, when you go on Google and you type in Marc Mero verse, do you have any idea what the first thing to pop up is?
I have no idea. What is it?
Butterbean.
Butterbean. Oh gosh, that was a funny story about Butterbean. Okay, he was such a nice guy, really nice guy, and he was a legit badass. He knocked people silly. So, anyways, the deal in that match was that tough man contest. I fought Butterbean was there was stools that we would sit on in the corner, and then when they take them out, they put them underneath the ring. Well, there was one stool that was gimmick, so when you hit Bean at the end of the match over the head, it just shatters in pieces, Yep. Well, the guy that was working my corner, Ray Rinaldi, he handed me the wrong stool. He handed me my actual stool. So I at the end of the thing, I'm thinking I'm going to really hit him hard because it's just going to shatter. He's not even going to feel it. Well, it didn't break. And it split open his head. And then I had to hit him again and again. And finally, the top of the chair just came loose and fell off. And so we went out to dinner that night, and he goes, "Hey, Mark, that chair really hurts." I go, "Well, sorry about that. It didn't break away the way we thought."
Oops.
How often does that happen where something gets supposed to be gimmick?
You know what, guys? Over the years, you see a lot of things that happen that weren't supposed to happen. Yes. I was with Cactus Jack when his ear got torn off in the ring, sitting next to him in the locker room when they brought his ear back. So there's a lot of things I've seen that weren't supposed to happen that happened, or they were supposed to happen and didn't happen. Yeah. So there's I don't know. It's just you just never know because it's all live theater. Anything can happen.
Now, how can people find out where you're going to be with the champion of choice?
And just go to our website, which is Think Pause, and Pause is P-O-Z as in zebra, thinkpause.org, O-R-G. And you can get there's an event page that lists all our upcoming events, and we're already scheduling into next year. Another cool thing, we're going to the UK in November for a UK tour with schools out there.
We can link that to one of our website we're affiliated with that is based out of the UK.
Oh, cool.
And we'll make sure that gets put up there.
Really looking forward to that. That's exciting. We just came back from Guatemala. We did Guatemala at the end of school this year. And we even went to Russia and did schools in Russia.
Now, do you speak do you speak different languages, or do you do it in English and they have someone to translate?
They have interpreters. In Russia, they had an interpreter that stood right on stage with me and he did a great job too. We never missed a beat. And then in Guatemala, it was really cool because all the kids spoke English, but when we did the parent night, we had about 800 parents show up, and they wore earpieces where they had two translators in these glass booths that translated for them.
Oh, that is cool.
It was really well done. And we never missed a beat there, too. They asked me to go a little slower for the translation, Yeah. And I did. So it was like if it's an hour speech, it took me like an hour and 15,
Now, in your speeches, if it's not at a high school, is it something people can typically buy tickets for, or is that a kind of buy event type of thing?
No, they're not paid. I mean, we do like churches and corporations and schools. So there's not really a paid venue, which, we're sponsored by someone. So, it's great that anybody can go isn't, having to spend money.
So you just have to find out where you're going to be and people can show up or maybe contact before and make sure there's seats available.
Exactly.
Guys, if you guys haven't seen Mark's Twitter and Facebook and stuff, like you post the end result with everybody cheering, and the amount you get out of those crowds is probably more than anybody gets out of like wrestling crowds, like how into it they are. And I think that's always cool and it's very uplifting.
You know, I took a lot of stuff that you learn from wrestling, like doing the presentations. A lot of presenters get up on stage and they just tell stories, but I actually have the screens behind me. And as I'm talking about things, they're happening behind me, or there's pictures of my family or videos or something's going on. So it's kind of captivating. And then, I tell the story about my little brother and sister, my mother, my father. And when I tell the stories, the kids don't know that they're all dead. So when they hear the stories that they died, it was like, oh my God. Now, most people know about my mother because that video went viral and millions of people saw it, but they don't know, most of them don't know about my little brother and sister and my dad. So when they see that those parts are going, oh my gosh, I thought his mom just died, but it's really powerful. But so many times we take for granted the very things in life we should appreciate. And I got so many letters from parents that say their kid came home and apologized or told them how much they loved them. Really cool stuff.
You're bringing families closer together. So
it's great that you can take your tragedy and turn it into such a positive.
Brother, it's exactly what you're doing when you tell your story about addiction or depression or anxiety. You're doing the same thing, and that's so beautiful. That's why I said I'm so glad you do that, because we all should do that. We all should want to help other people.
We have to. That's what we're here for. Whether it's through wrestling or talking on the stage or putting out a little bit of a podcast. And usually on every podcast, JP and I tend to touch on depression or some kind of mental health or addiction issue, usually all the same. We always throw a few minutes in there. And it's just that, we might have that one person that found us because it was a Facebook post that was shared, and they're listening and they like wrestling, but they don't know anybody else. And boom, hey, I like wrestling and I have depression. So don't those guys. I'm going to talk to them and they'll reach out. That's what I hope for.
That's awesome, guys. Do you guys go to a lot of the independent events in Boston area?
Yeah. Yes.
Everyone we can.
Yeah. Is there some good stuff out there, like good shows?
Yeah, there are some. We have, I think we have some of the best in the country, but I'm biased because I haven't been too far out of here other than New York and New Jersey for shows. I used to travel. I used to go to 2 or 3 shows on the weekends, and I would help out do security, ring crew, and stuff. So.
Yeah, we have Beyond Wrestling up here, which runs out of Worcester, Mass. And they got a weekly Wednesday night TV web show that they put out their product, and they have some really good talent. They just had 2 weeks ago we watched Joey Janela was in the house. He's big on AEW now. And then they got Retro AG Anthony Green, who is just on WWE TV last night with their Evolve show.
Oh, very cool.
So we get a lot of guys. Funny.
Wasn't John Cena from your area?
Say that again?
Was John Cena from your area?
Yeah, he's about maybe an hour, an hour and a half north of us.
Okay.
He trained out on the West Coast.
From Newburyport.
Okay.
He trained out on the West Coast, so he only did a couple of shows here right before he signed. He did a handful of shows in the area, but from what I understand, he spent most of his time at West Coast. His father, I don't know if you've ever met his father. His father does a lot of independent shows around here as a manager or GM, whatever they need.
Okay, cool.
His father's a character.
Good? They draw pretty good?
200 to 300 for a lot of them, yeah. It's not, it's not what I heard it was in the 90s and stuff with the on the independents, but it's still, you get a good crowd out of a lot of these shows. The Beyond show Joe was talking about, they only set up about 50 chairs and they get about 250 people standing up around the ring.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's good. It brings back the old ECW ways where you're right up there and in their face.
Now, do you do a lot of independents?
How many people did ECW draw back at that venue?
I mean, the arena is not huge.
Yeah.
I've been in the arena for different shows. I want to say that would only hold 450 tops.
Okay. And on TV it looks packed. It's just
right.
Well, that's the one camera angle too.
Yeah, they set those chairs up really well in that. Now, do you go to independent shows, or do you do any independent bookings?
No, I haven't done any. I mean, I've been so crazy busy with this for so many years. It's the last thing I want to do when I'm on a day off is travel or go somewhere.
Right. Yeah, and you don't. Yeah. Yeah, no, the independent scene right now is really good, and a lot of these companies have, with online, a lot of these companies have that extra place that they can go. There's a bunch of websites out there, and that's basically all they do is broadcast independent shows.
And with the dawn of the internet and the Facebook and everything being social media being out there, these independent companies that used to be just like nothing are huge now. They have massive followings.
Yeah, that's
all right. So
no.
Mark, do you know if you're going to be up our way anytime soon? Yeah, I know you said you take the summer off.
You know what, guys? We're always adding. We just added like 24 new events for September and October. But when you guys get a chance, check out our website, thingpause.org. Go to the events page, and every once in a while check it out. But we do go to Boston area a couple times a year. I'd love to see you.
Well, we'll be in the house if we see you out there.
Yeah, make a point to introduce ourselves to you.
Do a follow-up.
How can people get you outside of Think Pause? How can people get in touch with you? Facebook, Twitter, and that type of thing.
To Facebook, it's the Marc Mero page. Mark is with a C, Marc page. And then on Instagram and Twitter, it's just my name, Marc Mero.
I always forget about Instagram. That's like I'm an old man. I'm 45. That's the young kids venue at this point.
Yeah, that's why I got it. I really connect with a lot of kids. Most of my stuff is connected through Instagram now.
Well, and Mark, I noticed when I posted the picture earlier and you shared it, and I looked through who liked it, your share, it was a lot of younger kids.
Yeah.
So I think they're following you from that, and I like that they're not just giving you the like and then like you're away. You know what I'm saying? You're forgotten about from them, and like they're staying with you. So your message is definitely sticking.
Yeah, well, thank you, guys.
That's Mark, and you got to look at it like this: like you're not touching wrestling fans, you're touching everybody. Because a lot of these kids, they're probably not wrestling fans at all, and sadly, a lot of them don't know what WCW would be.
It's funny because whenever we announce wrestling, we always say I'm a former WWE wrestler because most of these kids weren't around when WCW wrestling was around.
Right.
They look at WWE as the only game in town, really.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it is. But Mark, we won't take up any more of your time. I appreciate you coming on and doing this, man.
Thank you, guys. It was great talking to you, and hopefully I'll see you guys when I'm up in Boston.
Yes, you will.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna talk a few promoters into talking into some bookings.
Yeah, well, if you're up here on one of those nights, and if you're here that night and you're doing your talk during the day, come to the show at night.
There you go.
All right, Mark.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys, that was a legend. Like Marc Mero, Johnny. I was a Johnny B. Bad fan. We didn't even talk about Marvelous. We didn't even talk about Marvelous Marc Mero. So we're gonna have to get him back on.
We didn't even touch on his feud with his ex-wife.
No, I purposely stayed away from that one.
I did too. That's why I only mentioned it now.
Yeah, but guys, it's just crazy. We're back, Joe. We're back.
We're back, yeah. And we're getting, he's dropping names of people on the show that, who knows, maybe they'll come in.
That's it. I mean, well, here's the thing. It's like, we've had Pillman Jr. Pillman Jr. is the future. That kid's not going to be on. He's been training, I want to say, a year and a half. And out of that, he's been injured for half of it. And he's making the name he's making. And at first, he didn't want to be junior. He wanted to be the second. He wanted to not be known as being under his father's thing. When he was on the show with Yeti said to him, dude, be junior. Like, it's what you are, And then someone else got in his ear. I think Davey Boy got in his ear and said, "No, no, 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 no. You're Brian Pillman Jr. and we're the New Heart Foundation."
That's the way it is.
But guys, that's all. I'm gonna edit this out. Get this up to you this week as soon as possible, and that's all.
All right. And to think tonight, you didn't have any Clown Shoes beer tonight.
I didn't. I was drinking. So I didn't. I knew Mark was very Christian and very positive, and I didn't want to. I was gonna have one of the bigger ones and one of the higher volume ones, and I might have said "fuck" or something.
Is this the first show we haven't sworn with a guest on?
No, maybe.
Recently, anyway, since I've been back.
Yeah.
The first show I haven't dropped that special word.
No. Clown Shoes?
That other one. I can't say with Clown Shoes.
Yeah, don't do that because I'm editing this one. I might leave it in. But it's been a week, guys, and there's so much, like, I hate to sound like that guy. There's so much more coming on and just coming up. And
I just want to say this, too. While people are listening to this on Wednesday, you'll be editing our interview tomorrow night with Chance Prophet.
Oh, that's tomorrow, huh?
Yes, it is.
And I think we got one more maybe tomorrow, too.
Who else we got?
We're getting Selena back, I think again.
And you saw my post earlier about my little side endeavor I want to do for us? What do you think about that?
I think it'll be fun. I don't know.
I don't think to do it on the mainstream. I think to do that as, like I say, as a side project. In between weeks.
Yeah, we can set up different. That's the beauty thing with being a part of the Spreaker family like we are. Spreaker.com. Although you can get us everywhere. Spreaker.com.
Check out Spreaker.
And the beauty of doing that is they're really good to us. And we can set up different shows. I mean, we could technically Chris Cash things if we wanted, but it's not what I want to do.
Do it right?
Yeah, it's not really what I want to do. I don't want to be. I'll put over shows all the time, like Chris Rucka. His son Trey had his brain aneurysm surgery today, so I hope that went well. I haven't heard from him.
Best of luck with that. I'm praying for that.
Team Trey all the way. The Irish Whip is there.
Oh yeah, Trey's part of the mafia.
I sent Chris a text earlier saying, "Ignore this until everything's good," but I hope everything's good. Just so he knows we're thinking about him. So Trey, I can't believe how much you're fighting and doing so good, buddy. Keep it up.
I'm going to say this now, and if Rucker hears it, if not, if you want to reach out to him, tell him when Trey's better, I want him on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I want Trey on the show.
We'll do that. We'll have him make fun of his father.
Exactly. I mean, we had a kid on the show before.
We did. We had a couple.
Yeah.
We had a young Anthony Green.
12-year-old?
We had a young Caleb Seltzer.
Yeah.
We had Big Al, the autistic Big Al.
Yes.
So, but guys, and that was you. You found Al, I think, didn't you?
I found a lot of weirdos. Not that he's weirdo. You know what I mean.
That's
a lot of. I'm a weirdo. I don't mean it.
Yeah, no negative connotation.
To put him down. I don't mean it as a negative.
No negative connotation there.
But,
I'm gonna go edit this now, probably, and we'll get it up, and then we'll send it over to WrestlingNewsSource.com, where we get all of our wrestling news. I'm just kidding. That's just.
And one more thing I want to put out there to the masses that are listening to us. I can actually say that and say masses now based on our downloads.
Not just
like, hey, to the four
not
of
just
you
my mass.
Like what used to be like to the four of you listening, and one's my kids and one's your mother.
My mother never listened. Funny story.
But she told you. But I would like, if anybody has any suggestions of people they want us to get on, shoot us an email. Shoot us, shoot me a DM. Shoot something. Just get us the name. We'll do our best to get them on. Can't say we will, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, that's all we can do. And, meet guys like Mark and becoming friends with him is going to just help. And
exactly. And with my side project, that doesn't have to be wrestling. My side project is to take other people outside the wrestling world and talk to them about wrestling. So Shoot some names at us, guys.
And we'll be at some live shows with some stuff. Jay Rubin will be at Beyond on Wednesday. Shout out to him.
We will be at Beyond.
Can't miss us. We're the two big guys.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna have our logo shirts on too, maybe.
I'm pretty sure I will.
Yeah. Yep. So. All righty. Well, I'm gonna sign off and head off to my daughter's softball game.
Tell her to stay on her feet this time.
You like that video, huh?
That was funny.
All right, everybody. TIW Mafia. I'm Big Joe. I'm signing out. See you next Tuesday. All right.